Okay, so now I want to actually talk about one of the things that I think is where 3D printing and designing of past toy parts is really going to take off and have a lot more customization to it. Um, and where the guys who are out there doing these type of things with 3D printing are really going to make a big difference and have an impact on the hobby as a whole. So if you think about most of the plastic molded parts that were in action figures or other toys back in the 60s and 70s, a lot of them were basically just kind of flat um, molded pieces, and then you had stickers and decals that were applied to give it the play action. Now in the 70s, it was great. I thought they were awesome. They certainly helped generate my imagination and play as a kid. But today, they don't really quite hold up to the test of time in some regards to interest kids nowadays for this type of play. And of course, in the 80s, manufacturers started to introduce a lot more molding detail, and of course nowadays the things that they can do with molded plastics and molded parts is just incredible, with the amount of detailing that they can get into all these different parts. I mean, if you've ever looked at some of the different Games Workshop models and figures that they use for those, I mean, the detail is just incredible in some of these molded, tiny molded plastic parts. So where I'm going with this from the 3D design standpoint is the ability to add more detail in here. And I'm taking as an example the Star Trek console, the computer console from the Enterprise playset in the 1970s that Mego Corporation had done. And we're just going to add some more customization. I'm not going to do a lot here to show you, because this is where you really do get into some pretty heavily modeling. Not so much that it's difficult modeling to do, but it's time consuming. It takes a lot of time to kind of add these type of details and add them right. So as we look at this console, so I'm going to start putting a sketch on this surface here. And of course this surface would kind of act as the keyboard or the console there, where all the bells and buttons and whistles, so to say, that Sulu and Chekhov would have been controlling to control the Enterprise spaceship. So I'll start that sketch on that particular work surface. And I'm just going to start by creating some buttons for Sulu. I don't recall. Actually, I'm going to place them over on the right side, which I think was Sulu, but I don't recall off the top of my head whether that was Sulu or Chekhov's workstation. But so I'm just going to come in here, and this is just going to be a 1/8 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch square. So, yep, and I already kind of messed that up, so not a big deal. So let's just enter these. Oh, my numbers lock is off. There you go. So made that 125, so let's change it, 0.125 by 0.125 instead of 125. There we go. Now I'm back on track. So that is my first button here. Now I'm going to create a rectangular pattern on this. So, and the first thing it wants is the geometry that I want to do a pattern on. So I will select those 4 edges for that square. And I got to give it a direction. So direction 1 is going to go here in the z-axis. So let me flip the direction because I want it to go that way. Now notice this is giving me 2 of these buttons spaced 1 inch apart. So I actually want 6 of these buttons. And I'm going to place these at 5/16 of an inch apart. That's a little too much. Let's make it 3/16 of an inch. There we go. And I also want them to go up, and I'll do 4 going this direction. We'll kind of do that the same, 3/16. So there we go. So click OK, and I'm going to finish this sketch. So there's where those buttons are going to be. Now I would probably, if I were really designing this, I would also add some dimensional constraints so I could really position these buttons where exactly I want it to fit on there. So, but right now I'm just going to kind of come in here and we'll extrude. So, alright, so these are all those buttons. Notice they're now coming up and they're going to project up out of that console by 1/8 of an inch. So, and I could set that to whatever I wanted. So I just kind of have to go and click each of those for the sketching. There we go. Hit OK. And now I have those buttons for Sulu or Chekhov, whoever sits in that particular workstation. Now, that is the square buttons. I'm going to come over. I'm going to start another sketch here, but I'm going to put it on the other side of the workstation here. And in this case, I'm going to kind of do some just some circles here. We'll make these circular buttons. All right. So, and I'll do the same type of a pattern on here. Now, I did forget one thing. Now, because this is a circle and I'm sketching on, and this is a different sketch, I need to have some straight edges so that I can position that particular pattern. So I need to come back here, and I also need to project some geometry here just so I have something to go off of before I do this pattern. So rectangular pattern, this is the hole. I'm going to go this direction. Again, I just switched that. And we'll go 1/4 inch apart on these, and I'm only going to do, say, a 4x3 pattern here on this one. So going up that way, do 3, and this will be 1/4 of an inch. All right. Finish this sketch off. And again, I will extrude these up. I'm going to do something else with these just to kind of soften them so they're not quite so harsh. I'm going to go back and I'll add a little chamfer, in this case 20 thousandths chamfer, here on each of these just to kind of bring that in and make it a little bit softer so it doesn't appear. It looks a little bit more like a button there with me. And again, as I zoom in, you can see how I've kind of added that chamfer onto that. So there we go. So that is that. So, and let's say I want to kind of create a globe of some sort. So on this surface, I now want to create, and I'm going to go in, I'm going to create some lines, but I want these to be construction lines. So I'm going to click up here, and I'm just going to go off of these midpoint. And these are construction lines that I'm creating because I want to basically place this right on the center. Okay, turn my construction lines off, and now I will do a arc. Let's go, yeah, the center point arc. So this is going to be my center. We'll do, well, if I go 3/8 here, that's going to give me a 3/4 at 90 degrees, and I'm going to come back over to there. So that gives me that arc, and I need a line here, and I'll show you why. I'm going to revolve this sketch to create that globe. So right now, as you can see, I kind of have this half arc that's closed off, and I can tell it's closed off because of the color green. So, and I'm going to do a rotation around this to create that. So let me finish this sketch, and we will use the 3D Revolve model tool. So it's already picking up on that. That is the axis that I want. Now it's given me a full axis here, but we can just basically go to next. So that way it'll only be 180 degrees and won't poke through on the backside. And I'll hit OK. So there we go. So now you can see I have that model here, and I have that like a little type of globe or something on there. You know what? And I want to make that a little bit bigger. So let me come back in here. I'm going to change this sketch just a little bit. So, and instead of that being 0.375, I'm going to make this half an inch for 1 inch instead. Just to kind of change it. There we go. That's a little bit better. Alright, now, same type of thing on there. I can go in here and add buttons up there. In this case, I'm going to come right up here. We'll just kind of create a little TV screen. So, little monitoring station. So, get in here. There we go. Place one there. Place one here. So, then we'll go ahead and we'll offset this one by 1/8. Do the same thing on this one. There we go. Finish that sketch. Now I'm going to extrude both of these. That and that. There we go. And that gives me some little computer monitoring stations there so that you can see how that is. Now again, I can go in and dimensionally constrain this so that they are placed in the right spot. So to do that, I kind of have to come back in here to my sketch, and we will dimension from here to there, and we'll make that 0.3125, 5/16. And I'm going to do the same thing here. We want this to be 1.5. Okay. And from here to there will also be, over constrained. It must be locked in. Yep, that it is. So got to delete that out. So now I can dimension that. This is going to be 0.3125. And again, this dimension here, 1.5. Alright. Now we're fully constrained. You'll see all that moves over. It looks more symmetrical. And I've got my computer console with a little bit more updated, realistic realism to it. Again, I can add all sorts of other things in here, place other stuff if I want to. Just a matter of taking the time to create all this. And again, like I said, this is one of those ways to me that it makes these things be so much more impressive with what you can do to it. So I could even go back and add a decal. I could take some original prints, and this would just be an image, of course, but maybe put the away team picture on there and kind of show them going in there. But just different things that you can do. So anyway, that is a new, better, updated Star Trek Enterprise computer console here that I can then go and 3D print and make whatever size I want. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, make sure that you post in the comments and give me your feedback. Appreciate it.